Welcome in to yet another special edition of Sport Ball. I'm your boy Sam. With me, as always, are my two good friends, sometimes enemies, always there, even when I don't want them. Seth and Kyle, how we doing, boys?
Greetings, hello, salutations.
Howdy.
Kyle's deep in pod prep, which he should have been doing hours ago, given I gave him a
What I
laundry
want you to
list of
think.
homework.
The man's a father. Give him a break.
But I have an SGP boost that expires tonight, and there's only one game left, and it tips off in 10 minutes. So
My God.
I'll let you think about what I'm doing.
He
You're
still
right. I
hasn't
gave you
gotten to
too.
his pod prep.
I gave you too much credit thinking you were prepping for the pod at all. Uh, big day for us. It's 4-4-24. That's got to mean something. I don't know what, but four score and 24.
There's a time this month, right, where we get the same forward and backwards. Is it today?
How could that be?
Yeah, what do you mean?
Like
Oh, four.
4/4/2024? No, it's not today.
It must be
There's
February, right?
Oh, maybe it was in February.
No, no. It would
No,
be it would be in
it
April.
would be in April, yeah.
Yeah, it would have to
It's
start with the four.
4/20. It's got to be 4/20.
I need to write it down.
4/22? No.
No, it doesn't have to be 4/24. No.
Hold on.
It would have to be, yeah, 4/20. And then there'd be a two in the middle. So it'd be a two in the middle and then a 20 and then a 20 and then a four.
We're missing it. We're missing something here.
This is why you tune into the podcast, for us to live try to figure out if there's a date when it's the same forwards and backwards. Okay? We're not even talking sports tonight. All right, well, you guys figure that out. Let me prep our listeners for what they can expect out of this pod. We're gonna start with NBA. Okay, so all you that you tweet at me, you roast me in the hallways, you say I only want NFL. You're gonna have to wait till the end. All right. So we're gonna go NBA first, and then at the end we'll do a little NFL with some Stephon Diggs trade, some NFL draft preview. But I want to start with the NBA because it's the end of the season, and we need to give out our awards because the NBA has chosen us, the three of us, as official voters for all the awards, right, Seth?
That's right. Breaking
And we
news.
take our jobs, we take our jobs very, very seriously. So we're gonna do all NBA teams and all the awards ranging from MVP, which is the greatest award, to MIP, Most Improved Player, which is the worst
Most
award given out.
despicable.
Even like participation trophies at 6-year-old soccer tournaments, I feel like mean more than Most Improved Player.
Well, at least we know what they mean.
All
Also,
right.
it is April 20th. 4/20, 2024
Yeah,
is the same forwards and backwards.
I figured that out
Oh,
for
yes.
four
Yeah.
minutes ago. I said
Wow.
that
This
5 minutes ago. I didn't write anything down.
You said it questioningly, like you weren't sure, and now I'm verifying for the
I'm pretty sure you
listeners.
said 4/22.
He said several things. Most of them were wrong, as usual.
But he'll take credit for the one that's right.
Yeah,
That's correct.
also as usual.
All right, so I want to start with all NBA teams. I remind the listeners that these are position lists this year for the first time. So you used to have to do two forwards, two guards, and a center. Throw that out the window. You could have four Jokic's and a Giannis if you want.
Well,
As
you
you,
can't have multiple copies of the same player, but
that's it.
otherwise.
There's also a game limit. You have to play 65 games to be eligible for this. So that three people really of note that are out right off the bat. Joel Embiid, who just came back after a long injury. Donovan Mitchell, also not eligible. And Jimmy the Butler, also not eligible, which I feel like probably for the rest of his career, he's just not going to have to care about making all NBA teams. So I'll give you my guy. I'll give you my first team, and you guys can tell me if you agree. I think the first
Tell you
four are
right
set
now,
in
we agree.
stone.
Yeah.
First four are set in stone, locked in, as if they're on a tombstone. SGA, Luca, Giannis, Jokic, in no particular order. Those are locked in, I feel like.
Who was it? SGA, Luka, Giannis, Jokic.
Jokic, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Not only are they locked in, I feel that these are no doubt, no brainer, the top four players in the league right now. Maybe pending Joel Embiid's health situation.
Right.
I would say Embiid's the fifth best, probably. He's in that top five, but he's, as we
I'd
know,
agree. Yeah.
did not reach the criteria. For the fifth spot, it was between a few people for me. Mostly Tatum, Anthony Davis, KD, Kawhi, LeBron. And I went with Tatum
Interesting.
because in my mind, this is a historically good team and he's their best player. And I just wanted to reward him for that. Do you guys agree with that?
I do not agree with the rationale,
That he's
but
their best player.
well, no, I think he is their best player, but I don't
Have you
factor
ever
in.
heard of someone named Derek White?
I just don't
First
reward
team All NBA
players
Derek White.
for that on All NBA. Like I think if someone was better,
But
they
you put
weren't
Tatum in
the
there
best
because you're a
team.
Celtics fan, anyways, right?
Yeah, obviously I'm taking Tatum.
Okay.
What was most interesting to me was, Sam, when you were listing the players that you considered in that spot, to me, it was a toss up between Tatum and one other person, and that person wasn't even in the list that you said.
Really?
Yeah.
Would you like to name that person or are you going to continue playing coy with us?
I
Jalen
feel like
Brunson.
my sixth was Anthony Edwards.
Really? Explain.
I think he might be better than Tatum. And I don't think that's true about anyone else other than the previously mentioned four players. So, and I mean,
So
you could,
you think he's the fifth best player in the league right now? I mean, barring Joel Embiid's
I
injury,
don't
as I
think he's there
said.
yet.
I think he might be. I think why I still have Tatum on the edge
I do think he's
is
better
that
than Tatum, actually, though.
Tatum's a bit more consistent. Um, but I think Ant is a better closer, and I think Ant's ceiling is higher. And the leap that Ant has taken on the defensive end this year, I think at least puts him even with Tatum on that side of the floor. And a step above all the other guys you listed, like Durant, LeBron, whoever else you said.
I mean, I feel like there's no question in my mind that Ant is going to be better than Tatum, and maybe as soon as next year. I just don't think he's there yet. And like, can I give the nod? You know, I'm kind of giving the nod to the guy who's, like you said, more consistent. I've seen it for longer. You know, I'm just giving you got to kind of beat him out. You know what I mean? You gotta kind of beat him out if he's entrenched in that spot. I mean, I know he's kind of taken like a little bit of a backseat. Tatum has because of how good the Celtics are, but he's still averaging 27, 8, and 5.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
honestly, I think, yeah, the best rationale for Tatum is that because the Celtics are so good, his stats are deflated just because there's so many mouths to feed there, and he doesn't have to be the center of everything they're doing on offense like Ant is for the Wolves. So
Yeah, and Ant is like basically similar points, less rebounds, and less efficiency. You know what I mean?
right.
So
Yeah, but
I
the
don't know if
rebound,
it's
the difference is, don't you think that probably plays into the fact that Ant was playing with two trees on his team
sure,
for
yeah.
75% of the season? So again, we could talk about Tatum stats being deflated based on the way they played out the season, but at the same time, Ants probably are too, based on the players that are around him and his doesn't require him to do all of that
Yeah.
extra.
It's not his role on the team to rebound like Tatum's is, right? So,
Right.
but he is just a less efficient scorer at this stage of his career, and I think that's kind of why I gave the nod to Tatum.
In
Ant
agreement,
might
though,
beat
that
him out
his
next
ceiling
year.
is definitely higher. I
Yeah.
think based on everything we've seen, I don't know if there's anyone as explosive in the NBA as he is.
That dunk he had over John Collins was one
That
of the
block
greatest
he
dunks I've ever
had
seen. Oh,
after the All-Star break, I mean, there's
the
so many highlight plays just
Yeah,
from
he's
this
had a
year from him.
bunch.
I mean, he was the topic of podcasts for like 3 weeks straight, starting in the middle of February, I feel like.
Right.
I kind of feel like he's
I
kind of
picked
like
Tatum
Tatum
too as well, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
Much to my chagrin. I didn't want to, but it just,
It's the right
What
play.
do you mean to his chagrin? He tells us to bet on Tatum for MVP before every season.
He does.
not this year, and he's not going to win. So I jumped ship at the right time.
Oh yeah, you just. What about all the other years that he didn't win as well?
Never getting on the ship would have been the right time, but
Coming from a Celtics fan,
Yeah, well, I never expected him to win MVP.
He
So
had a
anyway,
push there last year, though. Let's be honest.
He did.
He made a major
He was
push.
MVP
If
of
they
the
didn't
first like
start,
25 games. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah. And boy, to listen to Kyle talk then, let me tell you, he was bathing in it. Uh, Seth, Ant isn't even on my second team, just to hurt you. I have those four
that's
players I mentioned: Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, LeBron, and Kawhi. And then I have Jalen Brunson, my own son, who I birthed from my loins, as the fifth player on the second team.
AD,
Because,
LeBron,
mm-hmm,
KD,
mm-hmm,
Brunson.
mm-hmm,
So I have the
Kawhi.
same as you, and I have Ant over Kawhi.
That could be fair, honestly. Um, and the Clippers have not been good recently, but boy, that
Yeah, I
26 and
worry
5
about the
stretch.
right. That's the thing too. It's like, how do I wait like a month and a half, 2 month stretch of the season versus feel like Ant's been kind of the same and getting better every game as the year went on. Whereas Kawhi's Kawhi. He is who we thought he was when healthy, and he did have the healthiest season he's had in quite some time. But
Yeah, and like
now,
maybe
is that going to hurt them? Because now he hasn't played in a couple games. It sounds like he's going to be out a few more games. Is there's going to be something that lingers into the playoffs now? I don't know.
yeah.
Does that have anything to do with this? Probably not. I'm just higher on Ant.
Yeah, I
That's so
think
boring.
My
maybe it's the wrong like Seth, maybe it's the wrong way to think of it where I like I said, I want someone to really knock them off. And Kawhi's been consistent. He's been his usual Kawhi. And I kind of wanted to, like Kyle said, reward him for his healthiest season in years. I could see him taking that Brunson spot though, especially since it's positionless. I could have AD in four wings, no problem.
I mean, I think it's funny you're making concessions and they aren't even the concessions that I would want you to make. I do think you're putting a little bit too much emphasis on past years. Like, I get maybe if it's a tiebreaker, you have to knock somebody off the pedestal, but ultimately, I don't think anything besides this year should matter really at all. Um, and my question for you, Sam, is if LeBron and AD both both top 10 players in the league, then why are the Lakers not better?
Yeah, I really struggle with that. And it's really, really confounding. And I don't have an answer for you.
Okay. And if I think if you're gonna talk about, well, Tatum should be first team because the Celtics are so good, I don't get how you have LeBron and AD second team as a 9 seed and zero players from the Timberwolves who are the 1 seed until you get to third team. So
Yeah.
I have LeBron and AD both on third team.
I mean, I think that's definitely fair. AD's been so good this year. I could see moving LeBron to third team. Um, I might even
I don't know
consider
if I could
moving.
even see that.
I mean, Anthony Davis has been everything I've ever wanted him to be this season. Like I don't know if I can really move him to third team with how dominant he's been. If you're gonna ask me who was more valuable to the Lakers this season, I would probably say him. I mean, he's at 25 and 13, and he's been healthy all season, played 72 games with elite defense. I think he gets the nod. I could see the argument for Ant over LeBron or Brunson though. You could even talk me to into Ant over Kawhi as well. I'm not going to argue with him being uh a second team All NBA player. I just think it's that consistency, right? Like he's a young player. It's cool. The highlights are cool, but like sometimes when we watch the end of these games, those step back 20 footers that he takes don't always go in. You know what I mean? And he has to shoot a lot for this team, but I just don't know if he's there yet for me.
Yeah, I mean they've went in enough to get them the 1 seed in the Western Conference.
They're not one right now.
What is it, tied?
I think so. And I don't think
I
they
think
have the
there's also a
tiebreaker over.
difference. I don't know if
They're tied with Denver 53 and 23 for the 1 seed.
I
Yeah,
don't
you're
know
right.
if there's a
It's
difference
changed since
maybe
yesterday. Go ahead.
I don't know if there's a difference in my mindset. Maybe the Timberwolves are like, you know, tied with three teams, like you said, for first in the West, where the Celtics are like a all-time juggernaut team, one of the best regular season teams of all time. And that's kind
Mhm.
of why I not gave the nod to Tatum, because I think he's a huge engine of that.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I'm not really arguing against Ant's second team. I think that's perfectly fine. And
Okay.
he should be a lock to make these teams, in
Yeah.
my mind.
And I think you're right. I think AD probably deserves to be second team. Um, but I can't in good conscience have two Lakers on second team when it's just doesn't make sense why they're not a playoff team if you have two top 10 players. And
Well, that's totally fair.
it's not like their role players have been huge disappointments. Like they're getting more than we would expect from D'Lo. Reeves has been fine. Like so um
Now, could some of your own personal biases be bleeding in any small fashion?
they could be, which is why I'm bumping AD up to second team. So here's my
Because
second team.
you're a big man. And
I
let
am.
everyone say that right now.
So my second team is Ant, Brunson, Anthony Davis, Kawhi, and Sabonis.
Sabonis. I don't even have him on any of these three teams. So I'd like you to explain
That's
yourself.
That's
outrageous.
atrocious.
That is
Is it?
outrageous.
Cut his mic.
Yes.
Is it?
How is it not?
Let me hear it.
He's doing something that somebody hasn't done in like the history of the NBA. He's on this double-double streak, and he also has the
Wilt's
most
done it, and you know
triple-doubles in
that.
the league.
He hasn't done this actually.
What, this many consecutive double doubles?
Yeah, did he not just pass him?
No, he only broke the Kings record.
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure it's like most double doubles since Wilt, basically. Regardless, that's obviously very impressive either way.
So, and yeah, I
It's
just
the
think
longest streak since the merger.
Yeah, so since Wilt, basically.
That was on March 26th though. And how many did Wilt have in a row? Do we know?
I don't know, probably 82.
Okay, so I was wrong. Four players in NBA history have a longer streak than Sabonis. It's Wilt, Elgin Baylor, Elvin Hayes. So three players it looks like.
Alvin Hayes really comes out of nowhere there, huh?
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
ask
He,
I would
he
ask the
actually
same.
he's right on the heels of him. Elvin Hayes actually has two streaks of double doubles consecutively that are longer than Sabonis's, or was. I
Wow.
think Sabonis passed this one because this article is from the 26th, so he may have passed it already. 55, Elvin Hayes had a streak of 55 consecutive. And then he also had a streak of 60. Elvin Hayes, of all people, would have never guessed.
Alvin's sneaky, you know what I mean?
So it's going to
I
take
would
us in
ask
the
this.
next season to pass Wilt if he's ever going to do it. 81.
Wow. See, I guess they need to. I would ask the same question about Sabonis. Like, why aren't the Kings better? If he and Fox are playing really well, I'd be willing to be talked into putting him on my third team over one of these guys, and I might end up
I
that
think
way
the
after
third
we have
team
this
is really where
discussion.
the discussion comes down, and all of
Yeah.
us are probably going to have a bunch of different players.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
three.
Well,
Three different I think
Kyle,
there's three different players, but go ahead.
who was different on your second team? Remind me.
Me and you had the same, except I had Ant over Kawhi.
Okay, but you have Kawhi on
I
your
just
third
can't
team.
reward a robot. Yeah. Yeah, I have him on the third team.
All right, well, let me give you my third team, and I can see a couple guys on this list already that I might consider putting Sabonis in ahead of, and I'm willing to be talked into it if you really give me your all. Okay, I have Tyrese Halliburton. I have Anthony Edwards. You're not going to talk me out of him, that's for sure. I have Steph Curry. We've heard of him. I have Devin Booker. I'm willing to concede on Devin, I think, and I have Jaylen Brown. Don't know if I'm willing to concede on Jaylen Brown anymore because he has been really, really good lately.
you
But
know
if you
what
want to say Sabonis over Booker, go ahead.
what's funny is the player that I'm going to argue against is the one who will eternally will be locked to Domantas Sabonis because they were traded for each other, Tyrese Halliburton.
Mm.
I think if you asked me halfway through the season, Hallie would have been a lock for one of the All NBA teams, maybe even second team at that point. But he had that injury. Yes, he's going to be eligible. He's at 64 games right now, but barely. And I think, to me, I still factor in games played, right? It's not like if you're eligible, then you're on an even playing field with everybody else. I still think that somebody playing 82 games is more valuable and more worth recognition than somebody playing 70 games. And when he came back from that injury that he had, there was a long stretch there. Well, a decent stretch. I'm pulling it up, the game log right now, where he just played like 20 minutes as he was, rehabbing and getting back into shape. So he had 22 minutes, 21, 21, 20, 29, 25, 30. So those are all games where I'm not getting as much production from Tyrese. And then I just think he hasn't quite been his old self ever since he came back. Meanwhile, Sabonis is consistency, to the nth degree. He's a double-double every night. He's also averaging 8 assists, right? Like the whole thing with Halliburton is, oh, well, he's leading the league in assists. He's the engine on the offense. Okay, he's getting 11 assists and 4 blocks or 4 rebounds. Blocks.
Blocks. That would be crazy.
And 4 rebounds, and Sabonis is leading the league in rebounding, I believe. And he's at 8 assists. So it's like he's almost creating as many points as Halliburton is on offense. Plus he has the rebounding.
Yeah, but he's
I just
not.
think-
He has De'Aaron Fox though. It's like Tyrese has to be the entire engine of that offense. They can't do anything without him.
I mean, I think the Kings would struggle a lot without Sabonis too.
I don't know. I mean, obviously they'd be worse, but De'Aaron can run the offense fine if he's not there. You know?
So Sabonis should be punished because he has a good teammate.
I'm just saying for your particular argument where you're trying to argue that Sabonis is more valuable, I think Tyrese is more valuable.
Because, and your rationale for that is that Tyrese's teammates are worse.
Well,
he
I
has to be
also
more
think
valuable?
that you put Sabonis by himself on a team where he has to be the entire engine of the offense. I don't think you're looking at the same success as you are with the Pacers and Halliburton. Is my point.
That could be true. I think it's kind of like your Anthony Davis argument, where it's like, what more could you ask of Sabonis that he's not doing?
I want him in there. I'm putting him in, but not for Tyrese over my dead body. That's my second born son.
Okay.
So what your
But
your
you
third
could
team
talk
is
me into
who?
someone else. You can talk me into someone else. Get
Your
maybe
third
Devin
team,
Booker out of
Sam,
there.
is who? It's
Booker,
Tyrese.
Steph, Tyrese, Ant, and Jaylen Brown. You could talk me into Booker being out of there. I'll be frank.
I mean, I guess I have to. I don't know. I mean, I have Booker in there, so I just feel like I shouldn't talk you out of that.
I'm not gonna talk you out of it. He's in mine too.
Okay, Seth, who's your third team?
My third team is Durant, Steph, LeBron, Booker, and Jaylen Brown.
This is really funny because we're arguing so vehemently and we all have like 14 out of the 15 the same.
Yeah. So if we did if instead of doing like all NBA teams, if we just like ranked, the top 20, we'd have basically all the same list.
But that's why they come to this podcast for
It's
a healthy
just you would
debate.
have Sabonis at like 16 or
Yeah.
something. And so then he's off the list, which seems like an outrage.
I mean, on my honorable mentions, he's first on my honorable mentions, meaning I think he's 16th. So,
Right.
But
I think he's at worst 10th. So there is a little bit of difference there.
Sure. So, Kyle, who did you leave off then? Who was your 14th out of the 15th?
I left off 2, I think, of your guys's. I don't have Jaylen Brown, and I had but removed Steph. So my
Now
third
that takes
team-
guts.
Does it though?
I didn't have the guts to do it.
Does it though? I mean, the Warriors, who are just barely because of 2 losses by Houston recently, squeaking by as the 10th seed. I have Tyrese, Booker, and Kawhi. Did we all have those? I have
hmm
Sabonis.
hmm
Are you ready?
Oh my God. Wait, let me guess. Let me guess. Let me guess.
Wemby.
I'm not
No,
that crazy. He was probably deserving, to be honest with you, but
I'm
do
guessing
it.
J Dub.
Wow. No. It's a good
Okay,
point. That's a
Malachi
good one.
Flynn.
Yeah, that 50 really swayed me.
Okay,
Third
Seth,
player
we
ever
could
to
do
do it off
this.
the bench.
We could do this, Seth. We know him. We know he's gonna pick someone crazy.
You stand to win a lot
Bam Adebayo.
from this player making it.
I stand to win a lot. Wait, think
Yeah.
about that. Who do I have on my team? I stand to win a lot?
You stand to win a lot
What does that mean,
with this
even?
player
Just
making it.
Do you mean with my
Scotty
dynasty team?
Barnes.
No. I mean in
I
real
s-
life.
Do you have money on somebody soon?
Money? Do I? Oh my God. You serious? Zion
Of course.
Williamson?
Yeah, dude.
Wow. I forgot. Every year I forget that I made $100 bet, which I've never bet anything close to that in my life with Nick Merlina that Zion Williamson would make an All NBA team in his career, which seemed like a shoe-in when I bet it at the time. And now
We were worried.
I
We were
feel like
worried for a few years, but now he's also qualified to be able to make it.
I don't think he's gonna make it though.
I mean,
Wait, can we count your ballot for the bet?
he's the engine. He's the engine of this offense or of this whole team, essentially, that nobody probably expected to be anything more than a 9-10 seed at best, I think. I think if I think back to when we had uh at least from our brain trust here in the preseason before the season started, um we had a lot of conversations about who might make 10, who would squeak in. Maybe Seth, you might have said New Orleans. I think me and you had New Orleans last year, and then I was like, probably not this year. Nothing's really changed. But they were just in fourth. Obviously, we know the standings in the West are really crazy. They can end up anywhere really as high as if the Clippers keep sliding, they can make it to fourth. They'd have to jump Dallas at the same time, but they can make it to five. I mean, they're outperforming, I think, what people thought. Zion, I feel like, is outperforming all expectations, obviously, by reaching even just 65 games. He's what is he doing here? He's got where'd he go here? 23 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, half a block
Honestly,
on
you can
almost
you can
60% from the field. He's shooting, I mean, he's barely taking any threes, but he's still shooting 36% from three.
talk to me when he averages more than 7 rebounds a game.
Dude, 5.8 rebounds when he's supposed to be like this
It's
bowling
disgusting.
ball power forward.
He should be getting at least 10.
Do you
Why?
guys know
What
his
does it
middle name
matter?
is do you know his middle name is Latif?
I saw that moments ago as I looked at his basketball reference.
uh
I don't think it's that
I see
crazy.
your argument. I see your argument. No, I think he's in consideration for sure. It's just like if we talk about consistency, we all remember the nationally televised game against the Lakers where he played very poorly in that
In the
in-season
fucking
tournament game. And really at the
okay.
beginning of the season, it just didn't seem like he's playing very well at all. Now he has been
Steph just
really
is
good as
coming
of
off a
late.
stretch of like a month where he's shooting like 25% from the field. I mean, we can go back and forth about individual performances and a stretch
It's
of
a fair
time for any
point.
player.
But Steph is
Steph has the
Steph.
name. Okay. So does
Yeah.
that really matter though? Why should that matter for this current season?
Because I give Steph a little more benefit of doubt of a cold season. I don't give that benefit
Why?
of doubt of Zion because he's never been consistent
He's
through
not
a cold
having a
season.
cold season. He's being consistent this year.
I'm
So
saying
what's the argument?
he started out poorly and he's never shown me that he can have a consistently good season where Steph has had,
Why does the
7 or 8
past matter?
MVP seasons, MVP level seasons.
I'm
We're
with
Because I'm
talking
Kyle on
about
this
saying
one.
this
I think
season.
I think that's a bullshit argument. I don't think it's fair to take into account that Steph has been doing this for years. It's a reward just for
It's
this
a
season.
down year for Steph. Let's be honest. It's the worst or the second worst 3-point shooting career of his year of his career.
Well, but
This is the
Kyle,
worst performing
past years don't
Warriors team.
matter.
I
Yeah,
agree
Kyle,
with
if you're
you.
saying past years don't matter, then it shouldn't matter that it's his worst year. I mean, he's still shooting 40% from three.
I'm just rebutting Sam's arguments here. He
and
wants to
in
talk
turn you're
about
losing Seth.
previous
Join me,
seasons.
Seth.
I'm against both of you.
No, I think it's a fair argument for sure. I mean, I just don't think
In
he's been
terms
good
of
enough.
player efficiency rating, actually this year, Zion is, I think it's like top 13. Steph is barely squeaking top 20.
I just don't think Zion's been good enough to make this top 15. That's why I didn't put him there.
Well, I mean, obviously you didn't put him there because you thought that, but I'm
He
arguing that he
he
deserves it because
I
of what the team is doing right now.
he's just too inconsistent though.
He's not this year though. That's the thing. Sure, he started off slow. I think they were still trying to also figure it out, right? Between the three-headed monster that is. And we've seen as the year has progressed, this has become Zion's team. I mean, I can't fault him for the fact that maybe at the beginning of the season that wasn't the plan, that wasn't the direction, or that's not how things were going. But as the season has progressed, as the team has gotten better, as he's grown in his role on the team to kind of be the lead guy, he has the Pelicans out of the play-in and in the top 6 with the opportunity, if all things go right, to be a top 4 seed in the West.
But we've seen this before where he's had stretches where it's like, ooh, point guard Zion, he's finally taking over this team. Ooh, they're a 4 seed.
It's
And
been
then
consistent this year, though,
lately, yes, I agree, but that's not enough for me.
because he didn't do it in the past season since he's been in the league. So, okay.
I just want him to be better. Why am I even arguing against this? I stand to win $100 from this. You're right. Put him on
honestly,
there.
my argument, Kyle started talking about, watch out, there's a video that started playing. My argument is off of what Kyle first said, which was that Zion is the hub of their offense. And I think going back to kind of the Halliburton Sabonis question, I feel like Steph is an even bigger part of the Warriors offense than Zion is for the Pelicans. I think if the Pelicans lost Zion, they could make up for it pretty easily with all the other pieces they have. And I think the Warriors are dead in the water without Steph. Even when he is slumping, he just commands so much of the defense. Because they have to be aware of where he is at all times. I mean, we've been saying this about Steph for a long time, so that's not a surprise, but so that's why I have Steph in there, but I agree and disagree with both of you on all fronts.
So we all had the same pool of players that we picked from, except for Zion, essentially. Did you guys have any other honorable mentions that you want to shout out that you just barely missed your list? I would say Jamal Murray always has to be mentioned, and yet he never makes these teams. It's just not quite good enough. But we know
Yeah,
he's a stone cold killer.
yeah, he's one of those where if we were drafting a team for the playoffs, he would definitely make it. Although he's at 54 games right now, so he probably is not going to be eligible.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point as well. We mentioned Fox, Paul George, maybe right on the cusp, but he's always, the 15th to 20th best player in the NBA. Bam, Kyle, I did think maybe you would pick Bam as your last one. He's been really good and steadying the ship for them.
And he's shooting threes.
I know. Where did that come from?
I love it. It's gonna be huge in the playoffs when he's gonna hit a dagger 3 at some point. And no one's
Against
gonna
the
expect it.
Celtics. Kyle, let me ask you this. Now, be honest with me. Celtics Heat first round. If that happens, you're picking the Heat.
Yes.
I knew he'd say yes, but it still surprised me.
I mean,
I mean, is there anyone he wouldn't pick to beat the Celtics in the first round? Is the real
That's
question.
a better question.
Because he's taking the Hawks as well, so.
Would you pick your Chicago Bulls to beat the Celtics in the
if you
first
could
round?
guarantee me that
Here we go.
that the necessary number of games went down to crunch time or clutch time, yes. They're one of the best teams in the clutch, and the Boston is not this year.
I
I don't
don't
think I can get that
foresee it.
guarantee.
I'm gonna say I don't foresee it. I don't foresee 4 non-blowouts. All right, let's go awards.
But to your point,
Yeah.
the Heat, since the All-Star break, have the second best defensive rating in the NBA. They're lethal. They're back to the Heat that we know that show up every year in the playoffs, no matter what they do in the regular season. They've turned it on little bit more, a little bit earlier this year, I feel like, and they still aren't fully healthy. There's players sitting left and right. I don't even know. I haven't seen. Have you seen anything on Tyler Hero? Is he coming back anytime soon? Are we expecting him out for the playoffs again? What's going on here? I haven't
Well,
looked or
maybe
haven't seen.
they're better without him anyway. Maybe they'll make another finals run without him.
Offensively, too. I mean, it's not great. Their 17th offensive rating is since the All-Star break, but it's still a 5-spot improvement from their pre-All-Star break rankings. They are one of, well, of the teams in the play-in playoff picture right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams have improved in both their offensive and defensive rating. The Heat are one of them. They have, who's the other ones? Denver as well. Interesting. Denver went from you believe they were 13th in offensive rating pre All-Star break? They are now second post All-Star break.
What's
Seth, do you
interesting
want?
is,
Go ahead.
well, just about the Heat real quick. Kyle likes to talk about how terrible the Celtics are in the clutch. In clutch games this year, the Celtics are 20-12. The Heat are 21-19. So I'm not worried.
I
Look
would
at that record when it's against other playoff eligible teams.
get
If
IT
I
on
could,
that.
if I could do that easily
You
in
can't do it easily.
this NBA.com stats
No, you can't
page,
do it easily.
I'd
You have
let
to
you
go
know.
through. Yeah.
Seth, you did want to, speaking of, before we get to Warriors, you did, Seth, want to talk about other trending teams like the Heat. How about them Rockets, huh? You a believer in Jalen Green's ascension?
I would like to be. He's on my fantasy team, so that'd be great. Although I feel like they've come back to earth a bit these last few games.
They've had a
I,
tough, I mean, Dallas, when Dallas is the hottest team in the league as well. The two hottest teams in the league going against each other. He got destroyed by Luka. He hit probably the shot of the year too against them. What are you going to do?
yeah, I mean, so they had, yeah, this, what was it, like 15-game win streak or something, and then they lost against
I think it was
Dallas, they
11.
lost against Minnesota, and they're about to lose to Golden State. So,
They've already lost to them by 23 points.
okay, yeah. Um,
But there's something to build on here, I think.
yeah. I think the big question is, it kind of reminds me of Cleveland, where they went on this run when Mobley was out. And then the question is, okay, can Mobley fit in with Jared Allen? Rockets are going on this run with Şengün being out. Ideally for them, they would be able to capitalize on some of this momentum, strategy, the way that they're playing. Jalen Green's just increased confidence, ability, decision making, and then add Şengün into that mix and become even more lethal. Obviously, it remains to be seen
I mean,
if
there's a
they'll
big
do that next year.
difference in those two situations because Alperen Şengün is good and Evan Mobley is not. So
That's correct.
and
They have
Evan
one of the
Mobley needs,
craziest drops in ratings pre and post All-Star break.
who
They
did the Rockets?
Cleveland did. Cleveland.
Oh.
Second in defensive rating pre, 22 defensive rating
Wow.
post All-Star break. And they've also dropped five spots in offensive ranking as well, 15th to 20th.
I mean, for Houston, if you know that Mobley Allen question is legitimate for Cleveland, but for Houston, I feel like they've had success with Jabari at center, but I do feel like Jabari should fit perfectly with Şengün because
They were
ideally
playing really
he's a
well
good,
together before.
ideally he's a good 3-point shooter and is a great defender. That's exactly who you'd want next to Şengün, right? So
Right.
I feel
I
like
don't really
moving
question the
forward,
fit.
yeah, I
I
think
mean,
he'll
I
be
don't.
fine.
Yeah, I don't question that Alperin is a hindrance to this team when he returns. I think this is one of those scenarios where there was something that was starting post All-Star break with Şengün on the floor. There was a breakout of Jalen that was happening. He went out, Jalen's role definitely has increased, but he's also just overall making so much better decisions, so many better
Yeah.
decisions on the basketball court, on the offensive end, especially.
Yeah.
Where if you look at some of these plays, like he's getting teams are doubling him on screens and just allowing like Jock Landale essentially to drop off. And Jalen's been doing a great job of just tossing the ball to him essentially at the free throw line. And Landale, sure, he can make, a couple of those floaters here and there, but he's not the threat that Şengün is, both as a
Right.
shooter and definitely not as a passer. So you put Alperen in there while Jalen Green's doing this to this level, it just ascends this whole team to a whole nother level that I think is even better than what we've been looking at. Has the opportunity
Rockets
to be.
Rockets to the moon. And
Nice.
think about that.
Never
All
been
right.
done before.
Let's hit the awards for God's sakes, because the NBA didn't bestow this honor on us for no reason. Okay. MVP. These are the current odds on DraftKings, which, if again, DraftKings, if you'd like to sponsor us, we're right here. We're willing. We're waiting. Jokic, minus 1,600 favorite. Doncic, 8-1. SGA, 20-1. So Vegas is saying this is a wrap. Let me
It is
read
a
you their
wrap.
stats, if you'd allow me. Jokic, 26, 12, and 9 on 58, 34, 82 shooting. His team is 53 and 23. That's pretty good. 39 PR for him. SGA, Kyle's firstborn son, 36 and 6, 54, 37, 87 shooting, 29.5 PR. His team's 52 and 23. And then Luka, 34 points per game. That's four
That's
more
a
than
lot.
30 if you're keeping track. 9 rebounds, 10 assists, 49, 38, 78 shooting, 28.2 PR, and 45 and 30. Okay, so my question is, why is there just no debate on the MVP this year? I mean, is it just because it was a pretty hotly debated contest last year? Is it just because we saw Jokic win the finals and be the best player in the playoffs? And so now, since he's having another great season, we're just not going to debate at all anyone else? Because I feel like for me, it's Jokic, SGA, Luka in that order, but I really think there should be some debate, Jokic versus SGA. Luka's not my cup of tea for this award. I know he's scoring very well, but his team is not very good, and I feel like sometimes a large part of that is his defensive effort. So I don't know. What do you think, Kyle? Why is it just locked up this year?
I I think there's two things that are driving this, and I don't think it's locked up, in my opinion. Obviously, odds say otherwise, but Shea has, I feel like since kind of the start of February or after the All-Star break as well, where we've seen the refs allowing a lot more physical type of play and a lot less fouls are being called. Shea, as we know, has been one of the premier um, foul drawers. What's the word here?
That's what you wear underneath your pants.
Yeah, drawers. Uh, in the NBA, right? He was getting to the line at a crazy clip. So I feel like some things he's also kind of been in a little bit of a slump to an extent. I do feel like I don't have those numbers up in front of me now, but at the same time, I feel like we've seen Jokic maybe pick it up a little bit in the second half of the season, as was kind of shown as the team's overall ratings have gone up since pre-All-Star break. So he's the driving force behind that, as we know. But at the same time, I think it really comes down to what team finishes higher or first in the West. Right now, I think there's a belief that Denver is going to end up locking that up. But if OKC does come through and they lock up that first seed, I think we see some major value come in on Shea, right? He's plus, what'd you say right now, 1,100 or something?
20-1.
He's 20-1 right now? That
Yeah.
deserves a sprinkle. I mean,
I
if
don't
they
really feel
finish
like
first in the West, I don't know what really is the argument against him.
I don't really feel like first in the West should really matter if they're one game apart. That's what they
Maybe
are
it
right now.
shouldn't, but at the same time, look at we have the youngest team, right, in the NBA, second youngest team, whatever it is, wildly exceeding expectations. led by Shea himself, who's obviously he's first team All NBA without question for all of us. So is Jokic. But we've seen here's your argument, right? We've seen Jokic do it before. Is there voter fatigue again this year? It doesn't seem like it, but why not?
That's what I'm saying. I don't
I'm in
understand. Seth,
agreement with you.
why is there no Seth? Why is there no discourse about the MVP this year? Why is Jokic? I'm not saying I disagree with the fact that Jokic should be MVP. If I had to vote, and I do, I would vote for him. But
I mean,
why?
this is the same
Seth,
thing with LeBron that we saw for his extended stretch, right? It's like every year we probably could have given it to LeBron for a stretch of like 8 years between
yeah.
Throughout the 2010s, essentially.
But Seth, why this year are we deciding we're handing it to Jokic this year?
Going back to the well, right?
I'm a little bit confused if you're asking why do I think Jokic should definitely be the MVP, or you're asking why are the voters behaving the way they are?
Why don't you give me both answers, please, in whatever order you choose?
I think he should definitely be the MVP because all of us agree he's by far the best player in the league. And I think the voters know that. And maybe they've gotten smarter than they have in the past. But I think if you've watched basketball the whole season, you probably have come to the conclusion that Jokic is the best player. So why would we need to debate it?
But didn't we know? Did we just not know he was the best player last year? Because I picked him for MVP last year, but obviously he didn't win. And there is a lot of debate on this podcast and in media elsewhere between himself, Embiid, and Giannis. So is it just because he won the title?
I bet that has a lot to do with it. I mean,
you didn't pick him for MVP last year, did you?
I did.
Okay. I thought you picked Giannis for some reason.
I don't think so. I think I had Giannis second, and we talked about Giannis versus Embiid.
Our most loyal listeners, why don't you run back the tape
Yeah,
and see?
somebody can find the receipts on that. Feel free. I don't know. Maybe people are getting smarter. Maybe it's just, yeah, because he won the finals, somebody's gonna have to unseat him now, right?
I think that's it.
They're
I think
all
he won the
embarrassed
finals.
about voting for Embiid last year because it was clearly the wrong pick. So now they're trying to do the right thing.
Definitely a factor.
I mean,
You're
I
being
don't
too
know.
kind to the voters. I think the real reason is that he won the finals, which should that matter? I don't know.
I mean, ultimately, I don't know why we're talking about this because even if they're factoring that in and they shouldn't be, they're making the right choice, and all of us agree on that. So I don't know why we'd even be entertaining a conversation about SGA should be considered.
I would consider SGA.
Yeah, you could, okay, and then decide not to. It's like you're like, oh, I considered MVP. I decided I'm voting for Jokic. Why is everyone else voting for Jokic? I don't know. They
Well,
came to the same conclusion you did. He's the best player, so he's getting MVP. I don't.
to me though, SGA is just as close as like Giannis might have been last year.
Yeah,
But we're not acting that way. And I think it's just because he won the finals.
could be
Like,
true.
let's say he hadn't won the finals last year. We'd be like, oh, I don't know. Defensively, he doesn't really hold up. And that's probably why they'll never win a championship with him. You know, SGA gets 2 steals a game. He
That
steps
could be
up
true.
defensively. Things like that. Interesting. Next award, Defensive Player of the Year. You're not going to like this, Kyle. Rudy Gobert, minus 3,000 on DraftKings. The only one really else in contention is Wembanyama at 10-1. Kyle, would you have the guts to vote for Gobert as the Defensive Player of the Year?
I don't want to. I honestly think Wemby is the better defensive player.
I'm voting Wemby.
The thing is, how can you give the best defensive player in the NBA award to a player on a team that is firmly should have a top 5 draft pick next year?
It's a fair.
That's the whole
point.
argument against him. That's
It
truly
really
the
is,
only
right?
argument against him. And is that fair?
I mean,
I don't
think the
know.
other argument is that
Why do we take into a consideration team success for an individual player award here?
Like, where do we draw the line? Like MVP, yes, but like Defensive Player of the Year, should I care?
I think the other part is, was he playing at a defensive player of the year level for the first half of the season?
The problem is in that scenario is he was being heavily limited in his role and his minutes,
And he was
and
playing the
that's not his
four.
fault. Yeah,
He was
that
playing
too.
power forward.
I
Yeah.
mean, it may not be his fault, but that's the reality of what
That's what
happened.
happened. Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
if
for
somebody
sure.
gets injured, it's not their fault, but
I still think he was probably the best power forward defensive player in the league while he was in those limited minutes. And now he switched to the five, and now he's just the overall best defensive player. He can guard anyone, right? We know that.
I
The
mean,
man
Seth, do you
almost had
think
a quadruple double. What's
right?
I was listening to a podcast earlier. Over under next year on quadruple doubles by him, it has to be at least 1.5 for next
Oh,
season.
yeah. You
He's
know
gonna
what's
have
happening.
he doesn't have anyone around him right now to rack up those assists, and he's still doing it. Who's
how
shooting
I
on
many
know.
that
five
team?
by five games is he going to have is the real question.
It's gonna be like triple doubles. Where like, oh, here's another 5x5. Seth, do you think Wemby is a better defender than Gobert right now?
Yeah. But I think if you're going to go with that, I mean, then you should just vote Jonathan Isaac.
You're not
Well,
wrong.
his minutes
Pound for
though. I mean,
pound.
you're not wrong for sure. He's by minutes per minute the best defender in the NBA, but he was out a bunch of games. And then B, he's playing like 15 minutes a game some of these games. I just can't stomach it.
Right. So again, the question is, where do you draw the line? I think if you're saying, okay, the totality of the year, the total amount of impact on the team's defense, I think it's Gobert. If you're saying, just strictly speaking, who's the best defender in the league, I think it's Isaac. And I think Wemby is somewhere in the middle where he's made a big contribution and he's a better defender than Gobert is. So I'd be fine voting for Wemby.
I will tell you what, Gobert better appreciate his win this year because we might have. I don't know if voter fatigue comes in, but we might have a 10-year run by Wemby here. I mean, the man's already averaging 3.5 blocks and a steal and a half per game. He's barely
Yeah.
even trying out there.
Just gotta stay healthy.
4.5 blocks per game since the All-Star break. Nearly 2 steals a game.
And he went up against MVP Jokic, and Jokic said, "If you block me again, I'm gonna come at you." And they said after that he blocked me 4 more times. So I guess I was wrong.
Do you think there's a possibility that we could see him average a 5x5? Essentially, just I mean, we know he's going to average the points, rebounds,
Five
and assists. I
steals would
think
be a lot.
5 steals and five
I
blocks.
think he
5 blocks
could.
is definitely in the realm of possibilities.
Yes.
As we've seen, it's the steals. Is there a possibility though that one of his years here we see a 5x5 be
Has
average?
anyone ever averaged even like 4 steals per game?
Uh,
No way.
Get IT on that. I think quad 5 definitely possible. I mean, I'm starting to think crazy things about Wembanyama. I'm starting to allow my brain to go places it hasn't gone in years.
in
I mean,
1985 season, Alvin Robertson for the Spurs themselves averaged 3.7 steals per game. That's the most that's ever been averaged per game by a player in a season. He played 82 games, 35 minutes.
that's gonna be tough because
Yeah,
he's not a
5
guard either.
would be a stretch, but if anybody can, you Wemby.
This is honestly probably the only possibility that we'd ever have to see this happen in the NBA.
I
Yeah.
mean, of players that we're aware of now, who knows what'll happen.
Oh man, he's an alien, and I love him with all my heart. Let's do 6 man quickly. Malik Monk -125, Naz Reid -105. Those are the two really in contention. Norm Powell and Bobby Portis also in the mix. Now Malik Monk is out for the rest of the season, but he did already play 72 games, which I feel is enough for me. I'm going to give him the
It
nod.
also doesn't matter. Games played doesn't matter for this award.
No, I know, but I could be considering it. Just I'm not saying there's a cutoff for 65 games. I'm just saying, did they play enough? And he's averaging 15 points and 5 assists. I mean, 5 assists off the bench is so valuable that I just feel like I have to give him the nod. What do you think, Seth?
I'm on board with Monk. I obviously like Naz Reid and Minnesota Homer and me. That might be where my heart would go, but I also really like Malik Monk, and I feel like he's just been better this year, so I'm on board with that.
Kyle, you gonna go with Naz Reid, your boy?
Yeah, you know I am. I mean, I it probably shouldn't, to your point, matter that Monk is out for the rest of the season, but at the same time, that just gives 3.5, 4 weeks of voters to essentially just focus on Nas,
Right.
who has been outstanding um since Towns went out. So he
Although,
was already a top three option, I think, before Towns went out, anyways, in
Is he
the
gonna start too
markets.
much? Probably not, right?
No, I don't think he could reach it.
Okay.
but he is starting now, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if, I don't know.
I
Well, the
don't think
cutoff
he
is
could flip
half.
it.
I
Yeah,
think like legally you have to not start half the
legally.
games in
I'm just
in
saying
some
if
countries.
Kyle's argument is, well, all the voters are gonna be watching right now, it's like, okay, well, you're watching him start, so I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
that's kind of the point of the sixth man of the year. When you need them to start, they come through, Seth. You know what I'm saying?
Is that the point of it? That's
I
That's
don't think that's
part
the
of it to
point.
me. I want my sixth man to be able to spot start if I need him to and perform.
Which Nas can do.
Exactly. I'm one of those voters watching only him while Monk is out. Seth, give me your coach of the year. Marky D's in there. OKC coach Finch, Jamal Mosley of the Magic. Who would you take? Now,
honestly,
Joey Maz.
this is one of those awards that it's getting to be like most improved to me, where it's just kind of we just give it to whichever team overperforms from preseason expectations. Okay, their team's coach of the year. Great.
But
So I guess
give me a little argument for Joey Maz. I could see it, Seth.
I don't think it should be Joey Maz. The argument would be the Celtics are by far the best team in the league, and he has stuck to a game plan that works better than any other team this year.
But think about this, Seth. Coming into the season, they made a couple big trades, right? And we're like, oh, they're losing the heart and soul of the locker room. Is the team chemistry going to be good enough? How are all these pieces going to fit? And then they're just a juggernaut of a regular season team. I just feel like he deserves more consideration. Not voting for him though.
Yeah, this is one of my pet peeves when people are like, I think he deserves more consideration, but I'm not voting for him. So, I mean, if you're like, well, how come nobody voted for him? Well, maybe they considered him and reached the same conclusion that you did and voted for somebody else, just like you. So I don't know how you can be upset about that.
I mean, I might vote for him.
You just said
Maybe
you
I'll vote for him. Joey Maz, coach of the year.
all right. So I mean, I think it'll probably be Mosley. I don't know. I
Actually,
think
Mosey not
Spo
favored
is
right
the
now.
best coach in the league, so
It's Dagnall. Dagnall's the favorite. Dagnall should win it.
I could see that as well. They've also overperformed a lot.
You know how hard it's got to be too at those players' ages to get this type of production out of them when, again, these weren't the expectations to begin with. You have, I understand, Chet had a year in the league, but he didn't play, so he's still a rookie technically. To have a rookie playing at this level as well, I mean, I don't know how you look at OKC, what they've done, what Dagnall's done, and I don't know. I don't think there's much debate about whether it should be him, but I'm also a OKC homer, so
I mean, that team plays with such poise as if they're all veterans. And a lot of that has to, I feel like a lot of that, I feel like a lot of that has to come from the coach, you know? So I'll be fine if he wins it too. Do we even want to discuss, Seth, do we want to discuss most improved player? You
I
can say
certainly
no.
don't.
I don't.
Okay.
I'm
It's
tired of
Kobe
it.
White. All right. Are we all going Denver over Boston in the finals?
I read an article today about the case to be made for Cade Cunningham, most improved player, but
We also didn't talk about rookie of the year, but I assume it's Wemby. So
it's Wemby.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah. I mean, I'm about to vote him defensive player of the year, so he better win rookie of the year.
I'm voting him MVP.
Why don't we discuss it though? Is everyone going Denver over Boston in the finals?
I am not.
You going Boston over Denver?
Yeah, my prediction has not changed.
So before the season, I said Boston over the Lakers.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow, forgot that.
I kind of wanted to drum up something, you know what I mean?
How did
And
that
what
go
I
for
drummed
you?
up was a poor pick. And instead I'm going Denver over Boston. Either way, Boston loses in the finals in my mind's eye, and I love that. Because that's the most pain possible for Seth. Kyle, tell me why the Heat are going to beat Denver in the finals.
We need Denver to make the finals first. I think they have a rougher path this year.
Yeah, West definitely rougher.
And I don't even remember who I said at the beginning of the season. Pretty sure it was Denver. Almost certainly didn't pick Boston just because that's who I am, but I don't remember. Give me a Heat Dallas. Let's run back the what year was
Heat
that? The
Dallas. Good Lord.
I need to
Give me the
take a moment.
2011. Give me the 2011 final run back.
I need to wash up my mouth or my ears. I don't know which.
It's disgusting.
All right.
Do
Quick
you feel
NFL
like
at the
Kyle
end.
has abandoned his boy, Big Honey?
No, I haven't abandoned him. I think it's voter fatigue.
You're feeling the fatigue as well, it sounds like.
Let's go to the NFL. Those of you that have been waiting, craving your precious, precious football talk. Give me a sport that leads to concussions, you say. Okay, here it is.
Jesus.
Stephon Diggs was traded from the Buffalo Bills to the Houston Texans. The Texans receive himself, Diggs, of whomst is signed picture of him catching a pass right behind Seth right now. Two teams removed from that now. There he is, the Minnesota Miracle, baby.
Minneapolis Miracle, yeah.
Yeah. And so they got him in a fifth and a sixth, and the Bills received a second next year. Kyle, what do you think about this? Do you agree with the Bills' decision to move on? And do you think this is a stock up for the Texans?
I mean, no, I don't necessarily agree with the Bills choosing to move on, but I don't think it was strictly a performance decision. Like it wasn't due to the fact that like Diggs was a poor player for them. Obviously, he was the staple along with Josh Allen as their offense for the most part for all the years he was there. But everything that I've seen, it sounds like there's been some discourse behind the scenes, and obviously, I think it's coming to be known that Diggs is kind of a diva. Um, and maybe he's in the right in this scenario. I know I was talking to you about it, but Joe Brady got promoted to offensive coordinator midway through the season, and that's when Diggs' production kind of really fell off a cliff for the most part. He was, I think, top three in the league in receiving yards per game until Brady came in, averaging nearly 90 yards a game at that point, and then dropped to like 42, 43, or 44 something yards per game with Brady. Brady has been notorious at not really highlighting a true wide receiver one on a team in his time in the NFL as an offensive coordinator. So maybe that's just who Joe Brady
Yeah.
is. He just prefers to spread the ball around, and that's what he thinks is best. Do I think it's best to limit the opportunities of one of the premier wide receivers in the NFL? No, not personally. And now we have this insane
Mm,
three-headed
triumvirate.
dragon. Yeah, I was gonna say triumvirate. You almost read my mind. And then I decided to go dragon just because it seemed like it made more sense. But in Houston, we just saw one of the best rookie seasons out of CJ Stroud. Add in another, what has been historically rather elite pass catcher to the ascending pass catching core that they have already. Um, it's truly wheels up offensively for Houston. I think this allows them to really focus and own in on improving on the defensive side of the ball, as well as, well, they already upgraded at running back too. They got Joe Mixon, right, this
Yeah.
offseason. So
Yeah.
offensively, they got to be a top, at this point, what, top three, four unit offensive unit collectively in the entire NFL. So really, um, own in on that defensive positions, some of the key defensive positions in the
I mean,
draft and in the
added
offseason. And
Hunter too. Added
that's true. They
Seth's
did do
boy.
that already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neil.
Wheels up for
Yeah.
Houston, dude.
Seth, we love to see a team build around a young quarterback and give him the tools he needs to succeed, don't we?
Yeah. Next question.
Now the other question is
I mean, I think this is a great move for Houston. I always say, especially in the offseason when these trades happen, it just feels like teams undervalue star players in the middle of their careers. And I can never quite figure it out. And I know it has to do with, salary cap and everything like that, but it just seems like Houston was able to improve dramatically their wide receiving core for CJ Stroud without really giving up that much. So I think it's a home run for them. And
I think it's clear, like, yeah, you're right, Seth. I think they do often undervalue them, but I think it's clear that the Bills and Diggs were done. I think it was not gonna work moving forward.
yeah, so maybe it was one of those like he wanted out and they weren't going to be able to sell him for full price.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely a bit skeptical about the Bills offense next year.
A bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very skeptical when Khalil Shakir is your number one wide receiver, who Kyle is going to interject and say outperform Diggs down the stretch and is the next
Who?
up and coming receiver. Shakir.
No, I'm not gonna say I mean, maybe technically outperformed him, but I don't think he's a better wide receiver than Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, but you sneaky like him though. I know you do.
Yeah, as a secondary receiver, not as a primary option. And who's gonna be the primary option now? Curtis Samuel? Get out of here.
Well, I think their primary option is gonna be Dalton Kincaid, maybe.
Is it though? They're gonna draft a wide receiver.
What do you say if they end up getting Brian Thomas in the draft, Kyle? You think he can slot to that number one receiver?
I don't know if Brian Thomas falls to them unless they trade up.
Yeah, I mean it's a question of who falls to them. I think that's gonna really make us. It's a question of when
Give
they
me
end the
Xavier
offseason.
Worthy from Texas.
Oh, he's a speedster.
Mm-hmm.
That boy has wheels.
That's facts.
All right, well that's the big trade. I want to quickly talk about the draft because I have a confession to make. Are you ready? It's more
You
of a
don't want
statement.
Caleb Williams,
No. I am
a Vikings
excited.
fan.
I am excited and optimistic about the Bears for the first time since I was 11 years old.
Wow. So that's
Feels
a Super
great to
Bowl?
say that. Yeah, that's the year we made the Super Bowl. It feels great to say it. I believe in Ryan Pace. I've never believed in our GM before.
You believe in Ryan Pace?
Yeah. And by Ryan Pace, I mean Ryan Poles. Although Ryan Pace,
Who is Ryan Pace, though?
He was the previous GM.
he was the old
Oh.
GM. We traded in a Matt and a Ryan for a Matt and a Ryan as a
That's
coach and
right.
GM.
Yeah.
I believe in Ryan Poles and what he's doing. I'm excited about Caleb Williams, and I think he's going to be incredible. And I'm so happy that we got him, Keenan Allen, and now our receivers are ready. That's the biggest thing, right? We always talk about nature versus nurture with a QB. This QB is going to be nurtured, damn it. All right? He's going to have Keenan Allen and DJ Moore to throw to, and then probably a tackle or a wide receiver that we draft at number 9. I'm saying it. I'm happy and I'm excited. And it's scary to say that, but I'm saying it.
The Bears are a lock for the playoffs next year.
Kyle's always optimistic.
I think he said that
I'm
last
finally
year, too.
joining him. Yeah.
I
I
mean,
believe he predicted us to go 12-5 last year.
Justin got injured.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much not to like. Really, the only questionable thing I think that people have to say about Poles is that the trade for what the
Yeah.
fuck's his name that can't even stay on the field anywhere he goes anymore.
It doesn't matter because he's terrible.
From Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't think of his name either, but
But at the
no
same
one could have
time,
foreseen that he was that bad,
Chase Claypool.
Thank you.
you got to take swings, right? He took a swing, it didn't hit. This is one of those scenarios, though, where compared to previous GMs, we've seen the acceptance of the fact that it was a wrong move and they jump ship very quickly after it. Our previous GMs would have stuck through the entirety of whatever their contract was and just lived with the horror that was. So it's refreshing to have a GM that can accept the fact that maybe they didn't make the right decision and then swiftly move on and continue with the positive decisions or positive I don't know, positive choices, decisions, whatever it is. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Continue
He's so
on.
emotional.
Yeah. Continue forward and continue marching forward to the beat of their drum. I don't know.
Oh my God, that was beautiful.
That was
I gotta
terrible.
tell you, I'm excited, and I'm telling you what, Seth, I'm ready to get hurt again. I'm prepared. I'm opening myself up. I'm being vulnerable.
I look forward to making a Bears Vikings who has a better record next year bet.
Oh, you can make it right now. We'll have a better bet.
I want
How
to
much is
see
your
what happens
mortgage?
in the draft first. If we're rolling out with Sam Darnold, I don't know.
Speaking of that, I wanted to ask you, Seth. The Vikings have an opportunity to trade up, it seems. Now, are you a JJ McCarthy guy? Would people describe you as such a man?
They would not. To be clear, this is based on very little evidence. I think it sounds like that's the most likely scenario is that we trade up to
I
get
mean, you can
JJ.
hope for Drake May, right? But I don't know if you're going to get there.
Right. I think it would be kind of fun, JJ to JJ connection for the next 10 years. Um, that being said, I'm on the record as saying I would prefer them to just wait and draft Michael Penix Jr. But
That's facts.
I read
doesn't seem like
something.
that's likely to happen.
I read something today that Penix's draft stock is rising rapidly, and that there's some GMs around the league that believe he goes in the top 15 to 17 range.
Well, we could just
Wow.
stay at 11
Yeah.
and take him there. We'll see what
The
happens.
thing is, there's probably gonna be what, 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, maybe. I mean, you have Caleb, you have Jaden Daniels, you have Drake May, you have JJ
There's going to be
McCarthy,
at least 5 quarterbacks that are taken in the first round.
and then Penix. And the great part is 3 of them are gonna suck.
At least.
But it's not gonna be Caleb, baby. That's what matters, because I'm ready.
We'll see.
Hmm. All right. I think that's all I have. You boys have anything else to add? Seth ready for bed. I can sense it in his
I'm
mind's
already
eye.
asleep, actually.
Kyle, why don't you? I want you to send off our listeners with something to wet their whistles for the weekend.
When your legs don't work like they used to before,
Hmm.
take a seat.